Hello and welcome to this draft day edition of the SARMLB podcast. I am your host today, H Tennis. Reagan Kelly is unfortunately unable to participate in this episode, so I will be solo on this one. I could not find a co host, but we have an exciting episode planned for you guys today. We'll start off with a mailbag. Thank you to all who sent in your questions. This was the inaugural episode of the mailbag, so we got some good questions, and hopefully next time we will get some crazier questions. I was kind of expecting some weird off the wall questions, but so far they're standard, which is good because it's good to get into analysis as well. After that, we will be conducting a mock draft of the first round. As you guys know, the MLB draft is this Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and this is the future of your guys' teams. So it'll be very exciting to see who gets selected in the mock draft and how that compares to the actual draft that takes place on Friday. Without further ado, we will get started. The first question is whether or not Pittsburgh will be a threat to the St. Louis Cardinals in the NL Central this year. And let me just say that off the top of off the bat, I am going to say no. The Cardinals do still have a better core for this season, and Pittsburgh, although currently they are 3 games behind, are a little bit worse off in the Pythagorean record. They are also they're outperforming their Pythagorean record by 1 game. The Cardinals are also doing that as well. But the run differential, the Cardinals have about double the run differential of the Pirates, 59-30. So I will say that the playoffs are still likely in sight. It's not that the Pirates are a threat to miss the playoffs. They are currently in the first wild card spot, which would mean they would face the Los Angeles Dodgers if the playoffs started today, which is a fine matchup. 3 versus 4, and they still do have amazing hitters like as we keep hearing about in the chat. Albinson is on pace for a whole ton of home runs this year. He's hit 31 already this year in only 58 games, which is over a homer every 2 games pace, which is absolutely insane. He could be rivaling Attaway as one of the best home run hitters in the league. But Pirates fans, they have a lot of underperforming pieces. If in their core that are making big money, if they do actually want to go ahead and challenge the Cardinals for the division. For example, Tadakat's Honda is struggling again for the second straight season after coming off 2 relatively strong seasons since coming over from overseas. He's getting paid big money. Brandon Berea is pitching solidly. You would expect a little bit better, but he does have 9 wins, 4 losses, and a 3.65 ERA. And the guys at the bottom of the lineup simply aren't hitting their weight right now. I see that Slump Buster is getting switched between Lewis Wheeler, Berton Tavares, Blair Drake, and Rex Harrington. But right now, those guys are just dead weights. And, the Cardinals do have some of those guys as well at the bottom of the lineup. But if the top of your lineup is hitting like the Cardinals is, then you can afford some of that dead weight. Just play defense, speed and defense that they have in St. Louis. But frankly, the Pirates do not have those that strong of hit, like extremely strong MVP type level hitters at the top of their lineup, and as such, they need more balance. And the bottom of the lineup is simply not providing it right now. All right, on to the next question. Okay, so that is actually one of the dangers of podcasting in that I just got a call. So we are back after that call. Hopefully, everything is smoothly. I paused the recording, but you never know how things turn out. So fingers crossed if you guys are listening. Our next question is about Boston. Are the Red Sox currently underperforming or just bad? Which is, pretty blunt, but let's take a look. I suspect that when this question was asked, the Red Sox were performing a little bit worse. They have won now 7 of their last 10. They are now 29-31 and are only 2 games out of a playoff spot. So, they were doing a little bit worse to start off the season, but hopefully they might be shaping up now. I say that they are underperforming. I don't think they're this bad or as bad as they were when the question was asked. They are underperforming their Pythagorean record. They should have a winning record at 32-28, but they are 2 games under 500 at the moment. They still currently do have some young guys at the bottom of the lineup who need to be hitting a little bit better, including Ezra Pujols, Gunnar Gray, and Gianmarco Colgan. And those are guys in their rookie contracts still, and they're being counted on to be huge contributors of the next great Red Sox team. And right now, they're just not cutting it, even though at the top of the lineup you have amazing hitters. Both Zan Hickey and Cratella have over a 1.1 OPS. Some of that is fire aided, of course, and park aided, but it's nevertheless impressive regardless of how you do it. And of course, the starting pitching for the Red Sox is disastrous right now. Jefferson Outlaw, you could be expecting him to do a little bit better. Big free agency signing Bellamy has nearly a 5 ERA, and he's simply just not able to provide the production that they were counting on when they signed him in free agency. And the rest of the crew is not doing much better, including Smits, Kershaw, and Gabler. However, on the plus side, the Red Sox have already played 10 games against the Orioles. That's over half of the season series. And they haven't faced off against the other teams in the AL East that much in comparison. So that could be a bright spot. You get them out of the way early, and you could be looking at an easier schedule the rest of the way. That being said, I don't think this team will contend for the division this year, but the future could be looking bright in Boston if they make a playoff run this season, and then we'll see how the young core performs under pressure. All right, next question is, if Baltimore does not win it all this season, are they an all-time underachiever? And well, first of all, I would just like to direct everyone's attention to the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals, of course, have not won a World Series since 2020, since before H. Tennis took over as the general manager of the Cardinals. In fact, in the Pirates section, I forgot if I said this or not because I was interrupted by the call. It is fascinating. Pirates fans can take solace in the fact that they have won 2 World Series titles since the Cardinals have last won theirs. So if you think about, like, sometimes when your team is rebuilding, the team you support is rebuilding, and then you have another team that's very successful, then all of a sudden they tear it down because they've won it all with this core, and then they finish their rebuild faster than you finish yours. It feels like that because now the Pirates are on the upswing again. The Cardinals are a little bit, their core is a little bit aging. It's still relatively young, some young pieces, but the Pirates definitely have a very, very bright future. And it definitely feels like if the Cardinals can't win within the next few years, they could be in contention for that underachiever title as well. As for the Orioles, I will say that their time at the top of the division does look like it might be coming to an end, but the core is largely under contract for a bit while longer. As we know, Versailles Ellison just signed that monster extension. Jose Flores for 4 years after this one, Abel Lee for another year after this one, and he should be a priority for them to re-ink. Santiago Ramirez for 2 years after this one. Alex Abercrombie, of course, is going to retire, but PM Jr. is also under contract for another couple years after this one. So the core largely is still here, and once they free up money off the books, the Orioles can do a little bit of retooling. That being said, they aren't being the very dominant team that we expect from them this year. Miguel Martinez is one of the worst DHs in the league so far, especially in the Orioles park. He's hitting 127, which is just an absolute disaster. Abel Lee never hits, but he's playing solid defense as always. And of course, Subin Cleary is another piece of their core under contract for a long time. So I will say that it's more of a wait and see for Baltimore. I know that Bragan Kelly has had success in the past. He's also had some failures in the past, and does want to win with this Baltimore team. But we ultimately do need to see at the end of the day. All right, our next question is whether or not the Diamondbacks are playing possum. So I'm going to interpret this question as whether or not the Arizona Cardinals excuse me, not the Arizona Cardinals, the Arizona Diamondbacks are pretending to be a bad team, or if they actually are a bad team. And unfortunately, I do think they are not playing possum. I think they are actually dead in this case. You have guys like Jeremy Hernandez, who 3 years into his contract now, that they pried him away from the New York Mets, and that was a very exciting signing. But he's been getting progressively worse each and every year, and he's just simply not the pitcher he was when he was with the Mets anymore. You have other starters. Corey Strickland's doing the best he can. He's putting up a fantastic season, all things considered, but the rest of the rotation just not carrying their weight. And simply speaking, the lineup isn't hitting enough to get the Diamondbacks out of the water right now. And I think that currently they are, let's see, they are 27-34. So that's 7 games under 500, 2 games overperforming their Pythagorean record. So they should be a little bit worse. And also they are the one saving grace is that they are in a division with Vegas, San Diego, and San Francisco, all of whom were not expected to contend seriously for the playoffs this year. But simply speaking, I don't think this Arizona team is going to be able to recover from their poor start. We will see. I mean, you never know. Anything can happen in baseball. All right, next question is about whether or not the San Diego Padres are frauds. So, like I mentioned earlier, they were probably not expected to be a playoff team this season. They did retool some in free agency and bring back a few pieces that are exciting. If as for the question, if they are frauds, I will say yes and no. They probably should not be this good. They should not be 2 games under 500 right now. They're overperforming their Pythagorean record a little bit. They're only 2.5 games out of the wild card spot right now, and I think you can answer the question: yes, they are frauds. Simply speaking, because they shouldn't be this good. However, on the plus side, they do have room to improve. You have Pablo Childs, who is now, I think he is 43 years old. Yes, he is 43 years old. In the last year of his deal, we don't know if he's going to retire or not, but he is just not hitting up to his usual capabilities. He has an OPS under 700 right now. We have other players like Angelo McKinnon, who's just absolutely terrible at the hot corner. He's getting assistance right now in Slump Buster, but he's still has an OPS under 600. He's just dead weight. No one outside of Clifford Jones is pitching well. Vance Woodson, Shaquille Green, all these guys just not. They're not part of the next great team in San Diego. They're just placeholders right now. And if this San Diego team wants to make noise, they have to do something about those starters. That being said, Victor Guerrero is having probably like the greatest breakout season I've ever seen. His career OPS was in the 700s before this season. He is in his first full season in San Diego, and he's just absolutely mashing the baseball. 20 home runs, 770 slugging, which is just that. Those numbers are unparalleled right now. I know he's toiling away at DH, and his defense does leave a lot to be desired, but he's a very impressive piece of the San Diego team right now. All right, next question is, come playoff time, which team will probably be the number one threat? Right now, looking at the way that the teams are constructed right now, I think it is going to be the Texas Rangers. They have the largest run differential of any team right now, and that is with their offense not exactly at full capability. Ford Sweat, of course, is having another MVP caliber season. And Ishida is also hitting very well in a corner outfield spot. He alternates between left and right field, depending on whether they face lefties or righties. And it's even impressive that the Padres are playing this well, considering The bullpen is supposed to be the strength of this team, but Emilian Trevert, Benny Smith, these guys have ERAs in the fours right now, and I know you're not supposed to really take ERA for relievers, but these guys are pitching 2, 3 full innings each time. They are not really leaving inherited runners or getting inherited runners, so they're out there pitching a lot of innings, and Martinez is pitching really well as usual, but the other two guys maybe some fatigue over the past few deep playoff runs, but they need to step it up, and they can step it up come playoff time. And Wilmer Washington is also can pitch a little better than this. He can be the ace that he was signed to be in. He looks like he's rounding into form recently. So I think come playoff time, this Rangers team will be able to blow everyone away behind the plate. But and the pitching, when you shorten the game, you get your relievers. Maybe they'll add another reliever just in case. But yeah, I think the number one team is the Rangers. All right, let's see what is the next question. Team most likely to make a splash at the trade deadline. Okay, so looking at the standings, it's likely to be a team that thinks that they have a shot at the playoffs or a World Series contender looking to upgrade. So right now, I actually think one of the most intriguing teams in the league is the Atlanta Braves. They're 3 games above 500, only 4 games out of the division, and actually in the last wild card spot right now. So they've been bringing up a lot of their young guys recently, which is good to see because these guys slot right into their lineup. They're very productive, and they like Anthony Robinson after a slow start is now hitting 279 with an 848 OPS. He's hit 11 home runs, and he's showing why he should be the future in Atlanta. And they've also brought up other guys, including some pitchers and some relievers, and they could be looking to make an upgrade if they at the deadline, if they are still in playoff contention. Like they just brought up Aaron Kent, who they kind of weren't too happy with Yifei behind at second base, so they're trying other options. But yeah, I think the Braves are one possibility. Another possibility is the Seattle Mariners. They are 31-30, so they're a little bit out of the division because the class of the division right now is San Jose and Texas. But as for the wild card spots, they are half a game out of the last wild card spot, and they've kind of been retooling in past years, the past few off seasons, trading away some of their major pieces, bringing in other guys. But anytime you have Damian Rodriguez and Ahmed Guerrero in your lineup, Soriano at catcher, which is weird because Gerald Davis was there for so many years, as well as a top three in the rotation highlighted by Clark Bellamy, Ilho Pike, and Brooke Perello Chase, you can be a contender. So maybe they'll look to add a reliever as Vandale is having a little bit of an off season. He has a 1.48 WHIP right now, and he's actually blown 3 out of 15 saves. They also could be looking to add a back end starter to shore up the back end of the rotation, or even just another hitter at DH, as Gennaro Ross is not cutting it at designated hitter right now. Final option that I considered is the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are obviously in a division with the Cardinals and the Pirates, but they are also 1 game above 500 and are underperforming their Pythagorean record slightly, 1 game out of a playoff spot. And this is a team that has been dealing with injuries. They have Jared Gardner out, so they've had to slide pieces here and there in. And this is a team that could use an upgrade. They're starting Max Howley at catcher, and he I think should be a career backup. He's probably a quad A catcher. I don't think he's going to hit enough to stay in the majors. And they could also use some help at the back end of the rotation, even though they are giving some young guys like Chris Hawkinson some run. Carlos Owens, they brought in, is in the last year of his deal, and he is actually pitching a lot better this year as compared to the previous 2 seasons. But depth is good, and they could use some depth at starter and reliever. Of course, you can never count out the Red Sox when you're talking about trades, so I will just throw them in as another contender to watch uh, to make a splash at the trade deadline. All right, the final mailbag question is not about this season, but just about Versailles Ellison as where he will kind of end up in the GOAT conversation at the end of the year. At the end of his career, rather, he just signed a massive extension, so he will be playing for a lot longer. Currently, Versailles is a three-time MVP. He has an OPS of in the 900s. I was surprised it actually wasn't a little higher, but he yeah, but I mean it's still very very impressive at 925 right now. He did struggle a little bit in Atlanta in terms of the career stats at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of his career, but still very very impressive. He is playing in some hitters parks. Um, like considering he played in Boston and now he's in Camden Yards, but and the OPS plus will be adjusted, of course, but it's still very very impressive. He might be having his best season of all time potentially right now. He has over a 1.1 OPS. So when comparing him to some of the other all-time greats, of course, we can't go without talking about Mike Trout. Mike Trout has 5 MVPs. His career numbers tailed off toward the end, and that is affecting Trout's OPS. But I would say that Versailles and Trout have very comparable careers. Of course, like we do like to look at MVPs, but you can't really take these as the end all be all because the voters do weird things sometimes. Trout finished with an 885 OPS while playing fantastic defense. Obviously not on the level of Versailles, but through most of his career, Trout was a very competent defensive center fielder and then a corner outfielder toward the end of his career. I would say that the closest comparison for Versailles is Ken Griffey Jr. If his career hadn't been derailed by injuries, Griffey was posting the amazing OPS numbers right in the 900s until he hit about age 30. Then he kind of tailed off, along with the defense, fantastic defense in center field. And Versailles has obviously kept it up. He hasn't suffered any um, injuries that are hampering his production. Knock on wood, of course. But he could be a supercharged version of Ken Griffey Jr. When all is said and done. And where that lands him in the GOAT conversation for position players, when you're looking at Babe Ruth, obviously had the amazing OPS numbers, and other people like Ted Williams were just fantastic hitters. But with the defense that Versailles plays, he's always going to be a top 3 defensive outfielder in contention for the Gold Glove, and he's still giving 100% out there. He cares about the game, even as he's making big money. He cares about the game. He cares about giving his all, because it might be a kid's first and only time seeing him anytime he goes to the ballpark, and I think that's very admirable. So we ultimately have to wait and see, but I think that Versailles Ellison will finish a top 5 player, and there could be a strong conversation for him as the greatest position player of all time. All right, let's take a quick break, and after that, we will be back with the mock draft. All right, everyone, we are back, and for the second half of this podcast, we will be conducting a mock draft of the first round of the upcoming draft on Friday. As a reminder, please pre-rank if you have not or are not planning on attending the draft, as you will be autoed if you do not, and also it is your $1 goal. So it is always good to get $1 that could be used to sign a player, add some positional flexibility. You always want that dollar. All right, so the first overall pick in this year's draft belongs to the San Francisco Giants, and they are projected to select starting pitcher Zachariah Weinstein. That is a Discord message that I just got, so let us see what that is. Sorry about that. So I do mock the Zachariah Weinstein to the San Francisco Giants at pick number 1. I think Weinstein has an amazing floor, like very high floor. He should be a competent starter in the majors regardless of what happens, and you obviously expect more from him. He has great stamina. He goes deep into games, and his fire is just at 21. That's pretty good for a starter, and it will only get better with 8 progressions to go. Simply speaking, he has just amazing command. Right now, his stuff is not going to blow you away, but right now, like his command locating helps him garner some strikeouts, and that's all you can ask in this day and age. Limit the home runs, strike out some hitters, have a very high floor, and who knows? He may never be a superstar pitcher, but he is a very solid get for the Giants at 1. All right, number 2. The second pick overall belongs to the Kansas City Royals, and I am projecting them to select starting pitcher Gervasio Herman. And Herman is only 18 years old. He has a great deal of projecting to do. As of right now, doesn't have too high of a stamina, only 86 stamina, but that will grow with age. He's a bit more of a project, has a very live arm. His commands needs a little bit of work, but as you kind of see with the analytics nowadays, it's more important to have good stuff um, than it potentially is to be able to command, because the stuff can always get the hitters to chase. Herman obviously is a 2-pitch pitcher right now, so he may have to convert to reliever, but he has very good. Those pitches are very good. Fastball 97 to 99. Very lively movement, as well as a slider that breaks very late. He's also looking to add a curveball, and I think that his third pitch, whether or not he successfully masters an above average curveball, could be the difference between him sticking in the league or just barely getting to the league or becoming a superstar. And you basically you want to project with a second overall pick, you would rather have someone who is for sure going to make the majors, but Herman's star power is just too much to pass up, and he should be a great get for the Royals at 2. All right, the third pick is owned by the San Diego Padres, and with the third overall pick, I am projecting them to select shortstop Juan Sancho. Sancho is a 20-year-old. He is leaving college after 3 years to come be eligible for the draft. His calling card is his defense and his aptitude to learn. So he should be one of the rare shortstops who is drafted and able to stick at shortstop. He shouldn't need to move to third base or second base or another less premium position. That being said, his bat does need some work. He is slow on the bases, clogs up the bases a little bit. But one of the benefits is that he does not strike out as much as compared to others in the modern game. Only 116 strikeouts in 555 at-bats over his college career. And the defense is of course, very important at the professional level. And he should be able to grow into a fine power hitting defensive shortstop. Those two things kind of sound like they don't go together, but in Juan Sancho's case, they do. And that's why he should be a great get with pick number 3 for the Padres. All right, moving on to pick number 4, which is owned by the Vancouver Vespers. Of course, at any point, there could be a trade. So with that being said, we don't know if the order will shake up, and maybe the picks will be different with different teams projected there. But as of now, this is the order that we have, and this is the mock draft that we've got. At pick number 4, the Vespers will select right fielder Les Baer. Baer is a 19-year-old lefty with a very, very smooth swing. He projects to have some pop while playing solid defense in right field. He'll never be strong enough to play in center field, as he doesn't have that much range, but he should be able to cover the ground in a corner outfield spot very, very well. So I would say that he's a very sound defender. He's not going to be the speediest guy chasing down all sorts of balls, but he does get everything you expect a corner outfielder to get. Reads the ball very well off the bat, takes direct routes, even if he's not the quickest guy out there. On the base paths, he has above a little average speed, I would say. And his on-base skills leave a little bit to be desired, but with his smooth swing, nice uppercut lefty swing, he is should be a fun player for Vancouver. At pick number 5, the Houston Astros will select starting pitcher Clark Dreisen. Dreisen is 19 years old. He is already pitching deep into games. You kind of worry about some of these college players who in NCAA in competition. Their coaches don't really, like value their professional futures as much as others might do. They're having them pitch like 120, 130 pitches into games. In this case, Streisand is capable of pitching deep into games at the collegiate level, and it shows. He has amazing stuff. He has good command, also wipeout, strikeout stuff with a fantastic cutter. His cutter gets a lot of swings and misses, and he should be a plus plus starter in the bigs. At pick number 6, the San Antonio Bandits select first baseman Anthony Tracini. Tracini is a 23-year-old, so he's a little bit on the older side. He's not too fast, but he's very durable. He doesn't miss games, and he has a smooth power swing. 32 home runs in his last season at the collegiate level, and now he's draft eligible. Very solid, dependable glove at first base. Not too flashy, but he's going to make all the plays you expect him to make, and he should be contributing at the major league level in a few years. He is a very, very high floor guy, and he can obviously reach higher depths. Not depths. What's the word? I can't think of the word, but he could be a star. He has like star potential in this league, but as he's 23 years old, there's a lot less to project, and so far it's pretty reasonable for him. So he is a fine pick at pick number 6. With pick number 7, the Anaheim Angels select outfielder Joshua Graziano. Graziano is 21 years old. He's a bit of a project. He has a lot of room to grow. He has to learn plate discipline. He has to learn how to walk. He manages the strike zone decently well, fouling off a lot of pitches, makes a lot of contact. And his defense could be improved. He makes his fair share of errors as well as not being a plus outfielder, but he has decent speed on the base pass. Never going to be a real base stealer, but he can move, and he's not going to clog up the base paths like some others do, and that's pretty solid for a pick at pick number 7. You can project him comfortably to the majors in about 5 to 6 years. At pick number 8, the Boston Red Sox are projected to select first baseman Lee Klimkowski. Klimkowski is very good defensively at first base, very solid hands, very good range, and he's also dabbled in a bit of outfield at the University of Virginia, he has good versatility. And actually, it's a funny story. Because he was a first baseman by trade, came up all through Little League, through high school. He'd never moved off first base. He hit pretty well, managed the plate well. And then all of a sudden, the right fielder gets injured in a crucial game in ACC play. And all of a sudden, the manager goes, okay, who can play outfield? And Klimkowski volunteered, and he went in there in right field, and he made a couple of very nice plays, including a diving catch. He's ranging to his right, and ever since that, they've been trying to improve his skills at outfield, because if you're drafted as a first baseman, it's not likely that you have to hit in order to make the majors. But Klimkowski has this versatility, which should help him as well. As I said, very good command of the plate. He takes a lot of walks. He also gets hit his fair share of times at the plate, and strikes out a decent amount. So he's a guy who just works the count a lot. Not too much pop right now. Hopefully for a first baseman, he builds a little bit more pop into his bat, but a very, very solid player at pick number 8. Pick number 9 is owned by the New York Yankees, and they will select starting pitcher Juan Novak, who is only 18 years old, coming out of high school. He's a prep pitcher, and he is a he's a project. So they'll have to work with him in order to harness his command, harness his pitches, but his fastball is 95, 97. Very good slider, change, curveball, throws them all. They're all like pretty average. So if he can find 2 or 3 of those to be plus pitches, then he has a path to the majors. He has a long way to go, but he's only 18, so there is a lot there. His fire is great at 20. It should only get better. So, he might be a little bit streaky at times, but he definitely has a path to the majors. And if the Yankees developmental system can work their magic on him at pick number 9, he will be a good pitcher. All right, pick number 10 is starting pitcher to the Tampa Bay Rays is starting pitcher Zarius Clark. Clark is 21. He is a little bit less projectable. He doesn't go deep into games, but he's very competent. He should reach the majors pretty comfortably. And at pick number 11, it depends on whether you want to take a little bit more risk or you just want to go for the safe pick. And I think Clark is a very safe pick. Um, won't as I said, won't go too deep into games. Won't have many outings. His FI is pretty low, so he won't have many outings where he's just pitching out of his mind. But as a back end starter, like if you can just pencil him in every 5 days in order to get 6 innings out of him with 3 or 4 run ball, I think you'll take that to save the bullpen. Yeah, just a very solid pitcher. Has had great results in college. His stuff's not that good, but he finds a way to win. And you always say that those are the intangibles that you necessarily can't measure. But we try to measure them, but you never know until he gets out there on the field. And I think that he's done it at every single level, including winning the Little League World Series with his team from California, and all throughout high school. Step that people, coaches, family wanted him to, but he is still going to be a first rounder in this draft, and that is very solid. Potential top 10 pick. Pick number 11 is owned by Las Vegas. They will be projected to select DH Scott Cicerone, who Cicerone is probably the best pure hitter in this draft. Gets on base. He manages the strikeouts well. He hits a lot of home runs, and he runs on the base path. So he has it all. The only problem is that he doesn't really play defense, which is a problem, in the majors because you're penciling him in at the designated hitter role. But if he hits, that shouldn't matter. I mean, the only reason he fell out of the top 10 was because of his defense. Like, even if he was a poor defender, maybe he would have gone a little bit earlier in the top 10. But Cicerone should just hit. Not only 19 years old, so there's a lot of ways that they can that the team, that Vegas can work on his swing, which is already very, very nice. Maybe add some more power, cut down on the strikeouts, but altogether a very, very solid hitter at pick number 11. Pick number 12 belongs to the Chicago Cubs, and I project them to select second baseman Brandon Bernsey, who's only 18 out of high school. He is going to be a project. He's not too fast on the base paths. He actually has a lot of swing and miss in his game. He strikes out a ton, but when he makes contact, it's fantastic. He has probably among top 5 raw power in this draft class, and the fact that he plays second base, he might not stay there, but he could move to a corner outfield spot, which is very good. He can make the majors if he continues to just cut down on the strikeouts and make enough contact to let his power do the work. So in a place like Chicago where they desperately need a little bit more pop, Bernsey is a great pick for them, and hopefully he sticks around and makes the majors. A very high risk, high reward type player, but I think that with the right developmental system, he will do some good things. Pick number 13 is owned by Atlanta Braves, and I project him to select catcher Aaron Baker. Baker is 23, so a little bit on the older side, but he still has some room to grow. He's pretty fast, can steal some bases at times, but he's not going to be a guy who goes every single time. Not a lot of pop in his bat, but he gets on base, and also he's willing to get hit by the pitch and also hits a lot of singles. So very solid, projects as an average major league catcher. And if he reaches there, I think Atlanta will be very happy with what they got at pick number 13. Pick number 14 belongs to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I project them to select third baseman Greg Zylorski. As we know, they kind of like the more of the project types. Zylorski is only 19. He took an extra year to play high school, so he didn't go to college. He's coming out of his last high school season. He's 19 on draft day. He is another one with a lot of raw power and a lot of raw potential. He should play defense well enough to stick at third base, even though he's not that fast. He has amazing range, great instincts, great hands, and pretty good arm that can throw across the diamond. So he should be able to stick at third base. The only problem is that he just doesn't get on base too much. So when the ball is not leaving the ballpark, he's not hitting many singles. They're either doubles, home runs, or outs, and that could be a problem. But I think this is the type of player that the Dodgers like. They like taking these projects, and with the right training staff and minor staff, I think that Zalorski has a high probability of making the majors, as much as you can say for any 19-year-old. All right. At pick number 15, the Cincinnati Reds select outfielder Miles Crawford. Crawford is another one with a very high floor, but maybe a lower ceiling than you might expect. He doesn't play too good defense. You saw the viral clip of him on Twitter last year when he was as a freshman in college. He actually got turned around 3 times on a baseball that was hit to the outfield. Went viral, and it was actually a walk-off inside the park home run, which is not too pretty. And they will have to work. The Reds will have to work with him on his defense a lot more if they want him to stick in the outfield. That being said, he has played some first base. Very solid first baseman, doesn't make a lot of errors, and what you want him for is his bat. He could probably slot into a major league roster right now and be a below average starting outfielder. Obviously, you might want to give him a little bit more seasoning, see if he can improve some of his hit tools, his power tools, and cut down on some strikeouts. But that being said, Crawford is a very high floor player, and he is a solid pick at pick number 15. All right, pick number 16, which is owned by San Jose. I project them to select starting pitcher Britton Cam. And Cam is 19 years old, a little bit more projectable, has command issues at time, but when he finds the strike zone, he is able to limit the at-bats. The other thing is that his fire is high, his innings are low, so he should be in for a rapid progression. He would be a great get at pick number 16. Pick number 17 belongs to the Chicago White Sox, and they will select starting pitcher Philip Vanderzee. He is only 18 years old and has very great command issues, gives up a lot of hits, a lot of home runs, but you can see that the raw stuff is there. So if the White Sox do some good work with him, they let him mature throughout his 18 through 21 years, he could be a plus starter by the time he is 24 or 25 years old. So 6 or 7 years, this is a long way in the future. A lot of GMs don't like to take these players because they don't see the fruits of their labor for a long time, but Vanderzee could be an above average starting pitcher if given the proper training and coaching. All right, at pick number 18, the first reliever comes off the board, and I project them to select Zachary Martin, who is the top reliever in this class. He strikes out a crazy number of collegiate batters at 14.3 per 9 innings, limits hits, doesn't walk anybody, and just garners a lot of saves. And he is a very high floor player. The ceiling is obviously the limit for him as well, but he should be able to step into a major league bullpen as soon as next year, which could be something that the Tigers are looking for at pick number 18. Zachary Martin is definitely, I would say, if you had to ask which player from this draft class you will most likely see in the majors next year, it is Zachary Martin. All right, at pick number 19, the Tampa Bay Rays select starting pitcher Taylor Gladue. And Gladue is a 24-year-old, so he's a little bit more polished, and he's not ready for the majors yet. He has his issues, namely that he doesn't have a very high fire, but with some more progressions, maybe he can project to reach the majors at around age 28 or 29. So he's not going to have one of those long careers as he's already 24, and you kind of want 24-year-olds to be a little bit more polished at this point in their careers, but Gladue still has some potential, and he is, if you're not looking for star power, you just want someone who is probably going to be in the rotation sooner rather than later, or maybe move to the bullpen, then he's solid at pick number 19. Pick number 20, the Dodgers is another one that they might really like, and that is starting pitcher Robin Justine. Justine is only 18 years old, and very wild. Actually, throws a ton of wild pitches. His catcher was quoted as saying that he does not like catching for Justine because you never know where the pitch is going to end up. But with the Dodgers training staff, they can kind of harness some of that stuff into strikeouts, limit the walks, limit the hits, and he could turn into a major league starting caliber pitcher, which is good. Pick number 21. It belongs to the Arizona Diamondbacks. They project to select outfielder Deshaun Hicks. Hicks is, let me pull up his number. Hicks is one of the best hitters in this draft as of now. Right now, he has a very low ceiling relatively, but should be on track to make the majors at least as a fourth outfielder, if not more. So it will be up to the Diamondbacks here to turn him into a starting outfielder. And he's only 22, coming off his senior season, in which he had made some very, very fine plays in center field for the University of Arizona, and was able to hit some home runs as well. Needs to cut down on the strikeouts, needs to get on base a little bit more, but overall, very solid. He has a very high floor, will make the majors as a defensive outfielder for sure, also runs a decent amount, so it's up to his development, whether he becomes a starter or not. All right, pick number 22 belongs to Las Vegas, and they are going to select second baseman Stuart Beauchamp. And Beauchamp is a good defensive whiz. His bat leaves a lot to be desired. He doesn't have too much pop, makes a decent amount of contact, but actually has a surprising amount of swing and miss in his game. For someone of his stature, he only is 5'7", so that's pretty short. He actually has a good deal of range, but often is errant on his throws, so he gets tagged with a few more errors than he would have liked. But overall, he should be someone who also makes the majors, whether that is as a starting second baseman or as a utility infielder backup remains to be seen. But he is also another high floor player. All right, pick number 23, the London Lions. They will projected to select reliever Griffin Peterson. Peterson is the only other reliever I projected to be selected in the first round, 22 years of age, coming off his collegiate career, and very good potential. So he, big lefty, submarine guy, doesn't strike out a lot of hitters, but he projects to be pretty good, has a wipeout slider that slides away from hitters, and the fastball, he locates it well. So he is someone who should make the majors eventually, maybe in 4 or 5 years. So very good reliever. Pick number 24 to the Washington Nationals is outfielder Baron Hisness. And Hisness is, let me see, 19 years old, a little bit more of a project as well, plays solid defense. He's not going to be the greatest defensive outfielder in the world, but he's going to be competent. And they definitely need to cut down on his strikeouts, as that's his biggest flaw. Has some pop in his bat, but another smooth lefty swing, and he could be a good one in a few years. More than a few years, 5 or 6 years. Pick number 25 is left fielder Chip Phillips, who I am searching up right now as I forgot what I thought about him. Chip Phillips is another high floor guy. He plays solid outfield as well, but he doesn't have the range to fit in center field, so he's relegated to a corner outfield, whether it's left or right, but he does it very solidly. He doesn't walk a lot, but he has amazing bat on ball skills. He'll foul off a lot of pitches. He'll also strike out a lot, but he will get hits, and he just loves going after the ball. He loves swinging the bat, doesn't like leaving the bat on his shoulder, and that is Chip Phillips. At 22 years of age, he projects could be a major league player in the future if things go right. Pick number 26, I project the Tampa Bay Rays to select catcher Akbar Ball. He is only 20 years of age, not great defensively, but when you have a catcher who can hit like Ball does, then maybe the behind the plate stuff doesn't matter as much. So we'll see how he turns out. Pick number 27, the New York Mets are projected to select third baseman Kylo Correa. Only 20 years of age, good defensively at third base, could stick there, and decent hit tool. We'll need to improve it a little bit more, but overall a solid player at the end of the first round. Pick number 28
belongs to the St. Louis Cardinals, and they are selecting second baseman Jason Sabaty. Sabaty is 23 years of age, so not a lot of more progressions to go, and not a great defender. Very speed is okay, and he could be a major league backup. Also has some time in outfield as well, so that's something that is interesting about Sabaldi as well. Pick number 29 to the San Antonio Bandits is starting pitcher Dennis Spitzer. Spitzer is 20 years old, doesn't go deep in the game. Stamina is only 76, but with the right coaching, maybe he can make those 80 or so pitches count, and we'll see if he makes the majors. He's a bit of a project. And finally, to wrap up the first round, the Minnesota Twins will select third baseman Andrew Usyk. So there you have it all. That is the mock draft of the first round. We'll see how accurate or inaccurate it turns out. Please tune in Friday for the draft, and good luck the rest of the season. Thanks all.